Hello.
Hello, Gerardo. How are you?
Fine.
How are your things going with your thesis? Do you have any questions you want to talk about first?
Things are going well. I almost finished the review.
All right.
I'm just missing some parts of it.
All right, let's take a look
It's almost
here.
gone.
Okay, do you have your thesis statement? Okay, is this your thesis statement?
Yes.
Okay. A thesis statement, you might want to try to word your thesis statement as original idea, not necessarily a quote. So, but pronunciation should be taught in all language classes throughout. All right. The thesis statement should come directly from, let's see here. Let's look at your research questions. All right, so you have your research questions. Which learning strategies do students use to improve pronunciation? So here, all right. I think we talk about this improving. I think we need to try to avoid improving. Pronunciation, because that shifts us to focus more on learning. Like, how are we going to measure to improve?
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I would not use the word improve in your research questions, nor in your step 1 topic here.
Okay.
So I wish to learn more about learners. Let's see. I wish to learn more about how language learners pronounce the words, because I want to find out. Then you can be more specific. So I would just take out this improve your pronunciation, and then you would want to modify this research question. Now, your research questions are coming directly from this part of step 1, where you state, I want to find out what learning strategies do, and then what teachers use, and how teachers. Now, this section here is not really clear for me. I think you might want to revisit this section here and ask yourself, because I want to find out what learning strategies. So you want to find out how teachers implement certain strategies to help students with their pronunciation, or to give them opportunities to practice their pronunciation, or something along those lines. So you want to find out. Now here you want to use certain question words. So you want to find out how, you want to find out when, you want to find out why, and try to use a couple of those question words, because your research questions are going to come directly from this text here.
Okay.
Now you're missing part of the prompt, because there are 3 parts of step 1 that we need to try to include, and maybe you're doing that here. In fact, you are doing that here, but just remove this period in order to understand how pronunciation can. Again, we want to get rid of improved in order to understand how teachers use different strategies. Now, what type of strategies are you focusing on? See, how do teachers encourage pronunciation correction? How do they encourage correction? Is a little awkward. I would change this. How do teachers, do you want to say encourage pronunciation among students, or do you want to ask, how do teachers implement? I'm not sure exactly what the focus is of the second research question. You're saying correction, so are you talking about correcting pronunciation? Do you want to focus on correcting pronunciation? or strategies to help?
Strategies to help.
Okay, because you're mentioning correction.
Okay.
So I'm not sure. Let's look at your literature review. And so we have. All right. Remember that level 2 heading should be left justified. So you want to check each heading and make sure that you slide this bar back over to the left, so this text is aligned over here. So you have pronunciation assumptions. So let's make a note here. And then we talk about nonverbal strategies. Is that the next? And verbal. Okay. Now, the thesis statement should answer the research questions. Okay? And you're mentioning pronunciation assumptions, nonverbal strategies, and verbal strategies. Now, pronunciation assumptions, can you just kind of, what do you mean by assumptions?
About how pronunciation has been taught during this time and how teachers approach it in classes, things like that.
Oh, okay, all right, so okay, now we want to try to stay in the third person, so check that. Okay, here we want to avoid saying this research will try to find. Here we just wanted, this is a literature review, so you don't want to reference this research being your research. Later, maybe in the method section, you will be talking about this research. But at this point, we're looking at what others have said. So I would change this and add a topic sentence.
Okay.
Add a topic. And add a topic sentence that states a claim that supports your thesis statement. So add a topic sentence. Okay, so okay. For now, that's okay. I would go back. And after you read this first section, ask yourself if there's another way to describe, create a heading that's a little bit more descriptive, that's a little bit more representative of the idea here. And then ask yourself if this information is most appropriate first or at the end. And a lot of it may depend on the importance. If it's not very important, maybe at the beginning is fine. If it's pretty important, maybe at the end. Now, what you might do is in your research questions include something about verbal and nonverbal strategies, since that is really the heart of your literature review. Then maybe you're going to be looking at certain types of verbal and certain types of nonverbal strategies in your own research. So I would reword this and start with maybe a how question. How do teachers implement verbal strategies? And maybe there's a certain verbal strategies that promote pronunciation practice or allow students to practice the pronunciation. So you want to link pronunciation and verbal strategies, and pronunciation and nonverbal strategies. And yeah, so I would focus on that, and maybe just two how questions, one for verbal and another one for nonverbal. Okay. And then in your thesis statement, since your thesis statement is going to answer your research questions, you need to reference also verbal and nonverbal strategies. Okay, so I would go back and revisit your thesis statement here. Now, anytime you use quotation marks, you'll need a citation. Okay, so I'm just going to say review, and you may want to instead use italics. Now, maybe the next sentence, does Morley refer to this as tracking? So you may want to say that. And so tracking tries to, and notice this, all you would have to do is say tracking tries to make learners repeat whatever the speaker says, blah 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 blah, and then add this citation here at the end. So you don't even need to say this tactic proposed by Morley. Just say tracking, repeat the word tracking tries to make learners repeat, so on, and then add Morley at the end as a citation. Now, at this point, there's no need to continue using it or italicizing. You've defined the word, so now you can use it without using any italicized text or quotation marks. So remember, anytime you use quotation marks, you need to use a page number. So when it's a direct quote and you're using quotation marks, again, you probably hear maybe, I'm not even sure it's worth italicizing. You can just say similar. Okay, here you need a topic sentence. Add a topic sentence. The hardest part of a body paragraph is topic sentences. So you want, this would look like evidence. Such tactic. So here, state what Erickson and Rossi say about mirroring, either what it is or how it's used or when it's used or why it's used, and you can add that as evidence that supports a topic sentence that you add at the beginning of this paragraph. Now, you use this word fossilized. Have you talked about fossilization or oops. Okay, so you don't talk about fossilization, right? So I wouldn't use a technical term like this unless you explain what it is, and maybe I don't know if so. I would. All right. Okay, so let's work a lot on adding topic sentences. Each paragraph should have a topic sentence. as a claim. And I talk a lot about claims in week 2, right? In modules, week 2. Developing an argument. You can refer to this page. But each topic sentence should be a claim. See that? So what you're doing is you're adding evidence as the first sentence, but instead of evidence, it should be a topic sentence. So that's kind of what I'm addressing here, is that each body paragraph should begin with the topic sentence, and that topic sentence is a claim.
And then the topic sentence links to the evidence.
Yeah, the evidence links to the topic sentence. So you state a claim. So let's take an example. According to this, one most practice drilling. All right, something about drilling. So it looks like you're saying drilling consists of this. Okay, so you're talking about drilling. So the topic sentence, drilling, and then make a claim about drilling. State like a verb and not a definition, but state something that is that somebody could either agree or disagree with, something that is either considered true or false about drilling, something that is either controversial or that everybody agrees about, something, but state a claim about drilling in this paragraph. Because notice at the very beginning we're not really sure what the topic is until the very end of the sentence, and even still, even though you've mentioned that this author says this is a technique, we don't know about what about drilling you want to say, right? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it part of learning pronunciation, right? Is it a verbal strategy for learning pronunciation? So you can include all of that in the idea of the topic of drilling. So just double check all of your topic sentences there. So each of your headings, for in this case verbal strategies, you want to have 1, 2, 3.
I have 2 so far, verbal strategies, and non-verbal I have 3. I'm just missing one verbal strategy.
But you have 4 paragraphs, so you have 4 ideas. So you want 4 ideas that are coherent, that are in order, that's in some logical order that supports verbal strategies. Okay, so that's kind of the idea. Same way with nonverbal. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs, so you want 4 ideas that are related. Now that doesn't necessarily mean 4 strategies, but 4 ideas. 4 ideas that talk about strategies, and you can decide how many strategies. Maybe that's 2 strategies, maybe that's 6 strategies, or I don't know. But the ideas, you have 4 ideas that relate to nonverbal strategies. Same way with assumptions. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You got a lot of information about assumptions. So you have 8 ideas about assumptions. And I should be able to read the very first sentence, and you should, when you finish, read the first sentence of each idea to get a clear idea about those that relate to pronunciation assumptions. So, like here, for example. In order to learn about pronunciation, teachers need to know what pronunciation means. Before that, because you can define it, that's fine. But what is the first idea that you want to express? And that's usually not a definition. You can explain it and define it later, and maybe you have an expert that defines it. But what about, in order to, what is Learning to pronunciate means building up pronunciation. Like maybe this, pronunciation is a skill that can be taught. This is a claim. Pronunciation is a skill that can be taught by emphasizing and by addressing it continuously when necessary and when it's necessary. That's a claim.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know if that's the claim you want to use, but that's a claim. You're stating an idea. So you kind of get the idea here with topic sentence.
Yes.
So I would revisit really each of your body paragraphs, make sure that they are coherent and aligned with each of your main sections. Take another look at pronunciation assumptions to see if you need to maybe modify that heading to make it a little bit more descriptive. Make sure that these are all the way to the left to the page. Double check, notice your indentations, like this first one is too far over. If you just do a backspace, that should take you back here, because it looks like this is correct up here. Like notice this is correct, this indentation, but this one's too far over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so check your indentations. And really just I think pretty much every body paragraph, I think you need to add a topic sentence. Okay, like one aspect taken into consideration when speaking is age. But how does age really affect teaching? So this, you're actually asking a question. How does age really affect? So instead of asking a question, which isn't really a claim, state an answer, some sort of claim starting with age. Age, and then state something about age.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we want to avoid questions as topic sentences. Now you mentioned here that children have an advantage over adults. So maybe that's the claim, right? Maybe adults find it more difficult to learn pronunciation than children. That's a claim. Okay? You want to avoid phrases like it is essential, it is important, it is necessary. State a claim stating like teaching material, as long as it's relevant, and then something about teaching material. Basically this sentence here, this topic sentence, you're saying teaching material is important, period. That's what you're saying. And what I'm proposing or asking is try to think of a way to say something about teaching material that is argumentative, that is true or false, that some people will say yes, some people will say no. That is a claim. And you want to say something about teaching material instead of just saying that is important, right? Or that is essential. So you mentioned lesson or lesson plan, so something about teaching material in a lesson. So what about it? Should you use different types? Is a certain type of teaching material used for pronunciation, etc.?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So do you?
So sorry. Just I think that it's important for you that we get together to decide about how many observations, interviews, more or less, depending on the participants.
All right.
When is it possible?
Do you want to meet today or?
Or with Carla?
Say with Carla, I don't know. I can. Well, let's see. I have a class at 1.
Mm-hmm. Can we see for tomorrow?
Tomorrow?
Or the day after tomorrow? The latest.
No, tomorrow's fine. I just I just have class from 11 to 12:30. So any time other than 11 to 12:30.
Okay,
so
maybe it could be after 12:30 because I have from.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, I think tomorrow I start at 10. Do you know where Carla?
Carla is in. Yeah, she's in.
I'm going to
in
look
Aula
for her.
Dos.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. ¿Cómo ves, Gerardo? ¿Sí me explico? Sí, creo que tienes mucha información, buenas ideas, tienes muchas citations y nada más. Ahorita lo que estamos enfocando es la orden y las ideas, que cada párrafo habla de una idea. Y a veces, si lees todo el párrafo, piensas, ok, ¿cuál es la idea principal que estoy haciendo o diciendo en este párrafo? Y captura esta idea en una frase. También este ejercicio, con este puedes evaluar si cada párrafo, de todas las frases de cada párrafo habla de un tema, ¿verdad? Porque también si tú encuentras una que tal vez está un poco fuera de una idea, pues hay que cambiar eso, ¿verdad? Okay, so that's the idea. Just make sure that you're developing your paragraphs in this way. And take another look at your thesis statement and modify just a bit your research questions to reflect verbal and nonverbal strategies. Okay?
Okay.
¿Cómo ves? Do you have any other doubts or questions?
No, that's...
Does this make sense though? Is this?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. All right, so go ahead and start making changes. If you want me to look at anything before Friday, which is the due date for our literature review, just send me an email in Canvas, or if we need to talk about something, come by my office.
Okay.
All right? All right.
Thank
We'll
you.
see you. You're welcome.